Okay, hello everyone, guys. Hello everyone. Good evening. How are you all? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's session. So, today is supply and demand topic. This is the lecture 13 of IEIFS. Okay, I will be giving you the overview of the complete chapter, followed by some of the questions which are related to the discussion. Okay, so let's start the topic supply and demand with very basic thing. First of all, let's learn about the demand schedule, or what you are known as the law of demand. First of all, when we're talking about a marketplace actually consists of two individual. There are buyers and there are sellers, and every seller and every buyer has its own perspective with the price change. When talking about the buyer, when we are talking about the approach of the buyer, what buyers think, then it is considered as law of demand. When we are talking about the behavior of supplier, then the supplier behavior, what the supplier took a step when the prices of the commodity changes, then it is a part of law of supply. So when we are talking about the law of demand, first of all, it is from the buyer's approach. Second, law of demand state you the relationship between price and quantity demanded of a product. Means if the price of a product change, then what is the effect of the change in price over the quantity demand for that product from the buyer's perspective, then it is known as law of demand. See, for example, if there is a change in price of this particular product, obviously the buyer's behavior will change as well as the supplier behaviors will change. And so the law of demand separates it. Law of demand says that whenever there is an increase in the price of a product, whenever the price of the product increases, the quantity demand for that product decreases and vice versa. Whenever the price of the product is increasing, the quantity demand for that product decreases and vice versa. This is known as the law of demand. So first, law of demand is for from buyer's perspective. Second, it states the relationship between the change in the price to the effect of the quantity demand of that product. Third, it says says that if the price of the commodity will change, the quantity demand of that commodity will change and vice versa. And how it will change? There is an inverse relationship between the price and quantity demanded. Once the price will increase, the quantity demand will decrease and vice versa. And always remember the law of demand curve, because there is an inverse relationship between price and demand. So as price go up, demand will go on decreasing, and that's why the price always the curve of the demand curve is always downward sloping, and this downward sloping is actually from left to right. Okay, so these are some of the point of the law of demand. Clear? Done. So first of all, the higher the price of the article, being other thing remain constant. Being other thing remain constant means when we are only concerned with the change in price. When we are only concerned with the change in price, rest other things will remain constant. For example, the fashion remains constant, climate remains constant, preference remain constant. These other factor which can affect the demand of a product remains constant. Other factor being constant, once the price will go up or go down, then it will change the quantity demand of the buyer. Once the price up, quantity demand will go down, being other things remain constant. Okay, now there is an inverse relationship between law of demand. Now I have already told you that law of demand curve is always downward sloping. How it is downward sloping? See here. So this is the price, this is the price, and this is the quantity demand. Okay, now see that if we are in the position P1 where demand is Q1 means A. Now price will decrease, demand will increase means we are in the position B. Now price will further decrease and demand will further increase. We are in the position C. Now we are just joining these position and we will be getting the demand curve, which is always what the demand curve is always a downward sloping demand curve, and this downward sloping demand curve is always from left to. So there are certain things which I have explained here. There are certain things which I have explained here. For example, first of all, I have told you that law of demand is from buyer's perspective. Second, it shows the relationship of price change on the quantity demanded. That is always inverse, keeping all other thing constant, which is known as citrus paribus. And always remember, law of demand curve is always a downward sloping, and its downward sloping is from left to right. Okay, so this is the complete law of demand. Now let's discuss about the shifting and movements in the demand curve. Now this is very important for you all. Shifting and movements in demand curve. What is the shifting and what is the movement in the demand curve? So when we are talking about the movement in demand curve, see here, in movement there is only uh, the fluctuation either upward or downward. Means the demand curve is not shifting right or left. It is only moving either upward on the same demand curve or downward on the same demand curve. Whereas always remember, in shifting there is a movement either rightward or leftward shifting in the demand curve. Now in which condition there is a movement, in which condition there is a shift? When we are talking about the movement, movement is in the condition when price change and due to which quantity demand will change, being other factors remain constant. Means when there is normal demand curve, means all other factor being constant, when the price of the product will increase or decrease, and for this how the demand will change, then there is only the movement, either upward movement of the demand curve or downward movement of the demand curve. But when we are talking about the shifting, means rightward or leftward, in this you will see price will be constant. Now in this, price will not change, price will remain constant. See, price is P in all the demand curve, price will remain constant. But demand is increasing and decreasing. Why? Because the other factors like income and climate and fashion and preference, these actually affect the demand. Then it is the shifting. Let's see this. For example, we are in the position A where the price is P and demand is Q. Now, if the price goes up, if the price goes up, obviously the demand will goes down. And so we are in the position C. When price goes up, demand will go down. Okay, and we move to position C, means from A to C, means there is an upward movement of the demand curve, and this is known as contraction. This is known as contraction of demand curve. Okay, now if we are in the position A, price P and demand is Q. Now when the price of the commodity falls, then obviously demand will increase. And if price fall, demand will increase. We are in the position B. Means second position is when the price fall, demand increase, and we are shifting from A to B. Means we are shifting downward, and this is known as extension of demand curve. There is an extension, there is contraction. Okay. And extension and contraction is the either upward or downward movement. Always remember, in contraction, the demand curve will move upward, and in extension, the demand curve will move downward. Now, here, see, this is the demand curve. Price is actually same in all the position, but now, for example, fashion change, income change, climate change, preferences change, and due to which the demand of the product increases. When the demand of the product increases, the demand curve will always shift right. And when demand of the product decreases due to other factors, being price remain constant, if demand decreases, the demand curve will shift leftward. Clear? So this is the extension and movement in the demand curve. Clear? Clear? Yes or no? Clear? Good. Now next. Now the supply schedule. Supply schedule for a commodity shows the relationship of the market price and the producers are willing to produce and sell. Means in what market price the relationship between the market price and quantity of the product which the supplier want to supply. This is known as law of supply. There is an example. For example, an apple which is priced rupees 100 rupees per box, no apple is produced at all, because at such low price the apple cultivator might don't want to devote their all resources and everything to this crop. But as the price of the apple increases, more apple will be produced. At ever higher apple price, cereal maker will want to be profitable and add more worker to buy more automated apple juice making machines and etc. This is very simple. What is law of supply saying? Law of supply saying that when there is a price of the product in the market, for example, apple is sold at rupees 100, and for at such a low price, the seller is unwilling to sell the product or produce the apple in the market because this is not enough to cover their cost and profit. But as the price of the apple will goes up, for example, 500 rupees per kg, now the producers are willing to sell more and more apple at higher price. Why? Because they want to earn profit. So law of supply says that as the price of the commodity increases, the quantity supplied for that product increase and vice versa. Suppliers are willing to supply more and more product at higher cost, at higher market price. Why? Because they will earn more and more profit from them. Buyer is saying as soon as price will rise, the demand for that product will decrease. But the seller says that as soon as price rise, the sellers want to produce more and more of that product and sold more and more of that product in the market. Why? Because they want to gain profit from the rising price. And that's why there is law of supply, there is law of demand. Law of demand means there is an inverse relationship between price and demand. Law of supply, there is the direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. Clear? Done? Okay. Now, these are the two relationships. When we are talking about the law of supply, curve of law of supply is always upward sloping. And upward sloping, it is from left to right. When we are talking about law of demand curve, it is always downward sloping. Why? Because see, at price, lower price, there will be a lower quantity that is supplied by the supplier. At higher price, there will be higher quantity. At more higher price, more quantity supplied. More higher price, more quantity supplied. So obviously, the price, the curve of the supply curve will be always upward moving from left to right. Okay. Now, this is known as equilibrium of supply and demand. So this is the supply curve. If we're talking about this is the supply curve. This is the demand curve. When supply and demand curve meet, there is a point which is known as equilibrium price, and this price is the price where buyer is satisfied with the seller. Because see, buyer is saying that okay, if the price rise, I will buy less product, and the seller is saying if the price rise, we will be supplying more and more product. And this actually is a contrary situation. So there should be a position, there should be a price in which buyer is satisfied with the seller. Means there's a position where law of demand will meet law of supply. Buyer and sellers, they both are equally satisfied, and this will came when law of demand curves cut law of supply curve, and the point is known as point of equilibrium, where the price where the demand is considered equal to the supply, and this is known as point of equilibrium. Okay, done. So this is the short overview of the topics. Now let's start with the practice question. First, demand schedule is the relationship between demand and quantity brought, relationship between price and quantity bought, relationship between income and demand, or none of the above. Very easy. You can all answer this question. Very easy. So demand schedule is what? It is the relationship between price and quantity demanded. Obviously, B is the correct answer. Next, market demand curve obeys law of downward sloping demand, upward sloping demand, diminishing, or none of the above. Market demand obeys what? Market demand obeys what? Law of downward sloping demand, law of upward sloping demand curve, law of diminishing, or none of the above. So the correct answer is obviously law of downward sloping, because law of demand curve is always downward sloping from left to right. Okay. Next, shift in the supply. Okay, so we are not done with the shift in the supply. Last is the equilibrium price, is also known as market price, optimum price, market clearing price, or real price. If we talk about this, so see, if we talk about this, so it is also known as what? It is also known as the market clearing price. The equilibrium price is also known as the market clearing price. Okay. So yes, this is the complete chapter, and I hope that you have all enjoyed this chapter. If you haven't subscribed this channel yet, guys, please subscribe the channel and press the bell notification icon. And everyone who have joined this session, please at least like and share the video to the maximum you can. Okay. Thank you so much, guys, for joining this session. Thank you so much. Just keep on liking and sharing the video. Thank you. Take care, everyone.